Good evening, everybody, and welcome you all to the three-day international virtual workshop on research article writing and publications in high-impact journals, jointly organized by Lavender Literary Club, Cape Comorin Trust, and Malaysian Industrial Relations and Human Resource Association, Malaysia. We are very happy to have you among us today. And our first speaker is going to be Dr. Balakrishnan Muniappan, Associate Professor in Human Resource Management, Wawasan Open University, Malaysia. Professor Dr. Balakrishnan Muniappan is a HRM specialist and was conferred the Best Professor in HRM award at the World Education Congress, Asia's Education Excellence Award 2014 in Singapore, and at the World HRD Congress 2017 in Mumbai. He has also been a visiting professor in HRM and has served as an external examiner for DBA and PhD thesis in HRM for several universities within Asia, Australia, Africa, and Europe. Dr. Bala is frequently honored as an invited speaker in HRM at numerous national and international conferences and has presented papers at conferences and delivered talks in several countries within Asia, the Middle East, Australia, USA, South Pacific, Africa, and Europe. As a HRM trainer and consultant, Dr. Bala has vast experience in conducting training and consultancy programs in HRM and has contributed tremendously towards HRM effectiveness for hundreds of organizations within Malaysia and worldwide. His trainings are interactive, thought-provoking, engaging, and with practical insights that help us to transform participants' strategic and critical thinking skills. We are very much happy to have you among us today, sir. The session is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to Risha for the introduction. Can you all hear me clearly? Just want to check. Okay. All right. If you are able to hear me, and are you able to see the presentation slide here?
Yes, sir. Your presentations are here.
Presentation slide is here. Okay. Presentation slide you are able to see. Okay. Thank you. Thank you once again to Risha for the introduction. And I would also like to thank the organizer, especially Professor Frank, who contacted me to speak at this seminar, at this webinar. Sorry, not the seminar, webinar. Nowadays we use the term webinar more often for this webinar on writing for high impact journal publication. Now I was thinking what to speak. Okay, whether because it's high impact journal publication, I use the word journal publication first. High impact later on when we go through a discussion, we will go into what do we mean by high impact. And I have also included thesis, especially for faculty members or even postgraduate students who might be attending this session. Of course, there are distinctions that you can draw between a thesis and a journal publication. There are a lot of differences. It's not similar, but to some extent, certain extent, some of the things that you need to know on writing a thesis and also journal publication, there are some similarities that we will be looking at during this presentation. Now, to get the best out of this webinar, I would want you to interact with me. Please interact with me, ask questions, share your thoughts, share your perspective, because I'm going to go into a bit basic, but I want to, and in fact, I wanted to look into just one specific area, that is on problem statement, writing a problem statement. But I'm not just going to go into stop with just a problem statement, but I'm going to go through the entire expectations that are required when you go through a writing, when you do a writing, write up or for a thesis or even a journal publication. So again, as I said, feel free to interact. Feel free to use the audio on your audio or let's say if you feel you don't want to use the audio, you want to type, you can also type your questions and also your comments and also feedback, okay, from our discussion. Okay, as I said, I prefer more discussion, okay, like a discussion. All right, let me move my slides to the second one, looking into the objective of the session. All right, are you able to view the second slide? Okay, objective of the session, let me tell you. The session is to provide guidelines and expectations. Two areas you're looking at, thesis writing and also for a journal publication. And more importantly, in this session, if you want to get, as I said, if you want to get the best out of the session, we look into discussion on challenges faced by researchers, whether it is a faculty member, whether it's a postgraduate students, what are the challenges that you face? And together, we can look at the strategies and action plan to overcome those challenges. Instead of I'm giving you the challenges, of course, if you want to look into, find what are the challenges faced by researchers. Many challenges are there. There are many challenges. Each and every researchers are facing many challenges. And the challenges might also be different according to institution, according to country, according to the discipline. The challenges can even be organizational related challenges. So it might not be the same as what the challenges are faced by academicians or even the faculty members in Malaysia. It might be different than the challenges that is in India. So you can highlight those challenges. Let us discuss. I give my inputs. Let's say if I'm unable to address, some of you who are more experienced, who are attending this session, feel free to share your views and your suggestions. All right. So this is the objective. Now, I have not given any very specific. First to look into, I will go through some of the basic guidelines and also expectations. What are the guidelines? What are the expectations when it comes to writing? First, I need to know how many of you here are writing for thesis. Any postgraduate students here? Any postgrad? Either you can use your audio or you can type in a chat box. Any postgrad students? All faculty members. Okay, if it is all faculty members, I'm not going to go into the thesis part. I'm going to focus more on the journal publications, looking into more on publication for a journal, and then looking into challenges. What are some of the challenges that you face? Now, as I said again and again, feel free to interact. Okay, don't be a passive listener. Okay, you are here to learn. Every one of us here to learn. I can learn from you and you can learn from me too. All right. Yes,
Good afternoon,
Fazana?
sir. Yeah, I am a faculty member as well as a postgraduate student.
All right, all right. Are you doing any thesis currently for your doctoral thesis?
Yeah, I am currently doing my PhD thesis. I am a first year PhD student.
All right, good, good. Okay, thank you, Fazana ji. Okay, for your introduction and also your current status. You are a postgraduate students. If there are postgraduate students, okay, I can also go through a bit on thesis because I am an examiner for PhD thesis. There are many theses that comes from India too. Okay, not only from Tamil Nadu, but also other parts of India and also from other countries. I do from time to time examine thesis, and I can share with you some of the thesis looking into the expectations from the examiner's perspective. Okay, now let us move into your current situations, where you are. Okay, at this stage, I can't say who is where because I'm not meeting you face to face. I'm sure some of you are in A, especially those faculty members who have extensive experience in doing research and who have published extensively in many journals. Okay, they might be in A. Some of you might be in A. It's not during, I think the time for us might not be that long for me to go into one by one to look into where you are, but you should know where you are. Okay, so somewhere this session is going to be for someone who is like somewhere is J, H, okay, even people from G, also people I who have fallen and then they want to get back, okay, might not be to people who are already in A. Already in A means they are they can be considered as excellence. They already achieve what are required in terms of the faculty or even the institutional expectations for the research. All right. Okay. Now, let me move into, before we go into the writing guidelines and all that, some question for you to reflect. You have journal articles, and how the journal article is different from a thesis. I'm sure thesis, all of you have gone through, and then you have done your master's and you're doing your PhD. And in a doctoral studies, like in Malaysia, we have DBA is also very popular. DBA is Doctor of Business Administration. It is like more than just an MBA. MBA is Master of Business Administration. DBA is Doctor of Business Administration. It's a doctoral degree. And you have PhD. Any one of you wants to share what's really makes it different? Because if you look into the, whether you're looking into journal, whether you're looking into master's thesis, whether you're looking into DBA, PhD, it's all research. What is that makes the distinction between, that differentiate between a DBA thesis, PhD thesis, and a master's thesis? Anybody wants to share their thoughts? Feel free to share your thoughts. Okay, Haruna ji. You can use your audio.
Yes. So I'm Haruna from Ghana.
Yeah.
I'm a medical practitioner from Ghana. Yes. Yesterday, Professor told us the two differences. He made mention that, yes, he made mention that if you are doing DBA, DBA simply means that you are doing research, but the research is not meant for academics. But somebody who is doing PhD is purely academic. That means that he's in academia. He's doing it in school, in the university. He's teaching it in the university. But a DBA, he's doing the research, but not specifically for education, but for the industrial side. That is what he told us yesterday, the summary of it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Haruna ji. Haruna, thank you very much to you. All the best to Ghana in a World Cup. In December, they are playing in a World Cup. Okay, very good team. Okay.
Yes.
All right. What Haruna have mentioned, Haruna Ibrahim, he mentioned is correct. Okay, but you need to understand, like DBA and a PhD. Okay, PhD, you have to look into theoretical contribution. At the end of the day, theoretical contribution has a more weightage than practical contribution. When it comes to DBA, the practical contribution has more value. You have to remember, thesis, at the end of the thesis, when an examiner examines the thesis, they want to look at what is the contribution of this thesis to what? Number one, to theory. What is the new theory that has been found? What was the finding? And anything that can be added to the theory. What is the theoretical implication? Second is the practical implication. DBA, the focus is more on practical implication. At the end of the thesis, what you contribute practically. And then, of course, there's another contribution that usually every thesis you need to look into is a contribution to research, further research. This you need to state. When you look into masters, okay, some people say masters is just basic, very basic. No, actually, no. All the thesis you need to, whether it is masters, whether it is PhD, you still have to go through the rigorous. It has to be rigorous to some extent. In the masters, maybe the scope of the studies, the only thing is that we can look into is the scope of the study. In a PhD, you can look into the scope, which is much more wider perspective you can look at. But still, when it comes to the contribution, all this plays, whether you are looking into journal article, whether you're looking at the master's thesis, okay, master's thesis like an MPhil, like in India you have MPhil, like in Malaysia we have like a MA, MSc or specific to a certain field, okay, and then in a DBA or PhD you still have to go through. At the end of the day, assessor is going to assess based on what is the contribution of the journal article, what is the contribution of the thesis, whether master's, DBA or PhD, to the body of knowledge, whatever body of knowledge that you are going to, you are studying. Now, let me go into the psychological contract in writing. It's essential for us to understand the psychological contract. A psychological contract in writing means it is a contract or based on expectations of parties that are involved in the, whether it is thesis or whether it is journal article. For example, before you write for a thesis, you need to make sure you are clear with the thesis guideline provided by the university. Any universities that you are doing your postgraduate studies, read the PhD handbook, how the thesis should be written. Some universities make it specific. The thesis only have to be 5 chapters. Chapter 1 is the introduction, all the foundation, the background will be introduction, which includes the background, your problem statement, your research objective, your research questions, your hypothesis, your need for studies, scope of your studies, limitation of all chapter 1. Then chapter 2 go into your literature review, and then your gap, the research gap, research framework, and then chapter 3 goes into methodology, chapter 4 into analysis, data analysis, and interpretation, and chapter 5 is findings, recommendation, conclusion. You might have a standard format. So first you need to understand that clearly. Okay, that is written. There are something that you need to know unwritten. Also, you need to go into, I'm going to go into that part in a moment. And the same way, when you are looking into journal, whichever journal that you are submitting your article, before you submit your article and before you start writing, when you write, look at the journal and then the expectations of the journal. What type of article that are accepted? What type of articles that are not accepted by the journal? And then every journal will have author's guidelines. Read the articles, read the guidelines for the author's guidelines, because sometimes people submit what you call journal articles, and I have also reviewed journal articles. They don't meet the expectation because they did not read the guidelines before you submit. So it's important to understand this contract. And some of these are written, some of these are unwritten. There are a lot of things about unwritten agreement. Unwritten is the part that we call about psychological contract. Unwritten agreement is before you write, you need to, when you write, before you submit, you need to look into what would be the expectations of the examiner. Like a thesis, you need to have examiners in your mind. Of course, your supervisor might guide you, will give you guidance. But when you are writing, you are looking now. When you are writing, you must also look at, depending on the university, you might know who might be your internal examiner or who likely to be external examiner, maybe from a list of external examiners. So you need to look into external examiner. For example, what is their background? What are the publications that they have? Okay, and then how do they write? Okay, what might be their expectations? So you need to read through this. And then the editors. Now, in the journal article, if you are going to submit to the journals, you need to look into journals, editors, what are their field, what are their expectations, okay, how they have published their works, where they have published their works. So you need to look into from 2 parts. So that's where understanding the expectations of the examiners and the editors. Both are the readers. Who are going to be the readers? Who are going to, the most important thing for you to look at, especially for postgraduate student, is that you must be able to meet the expectations of the examiners. Sometimes we make assumption, okay, like the story here, if you are able to see, a disappointed salesman of Coca-Cola who came back from Saudi Arabia, a friend asked him, one of his friends asked him, why weren't you successful with the Saudis? He said when he got posted, he was very excited and he said he will be very confident. He felt very confident he's going to make a good sales. And then but he cannot speak he do not know how to speak Arabic. So he planned to convey the message to 3 posters. Poster number 1, a man fainted. He fainted lying in a desert. And after drinking Coca-Cola, he got energy, and then he started to run. But that was not the way the people there understood. The people over the other side, they understood the message in this way. A man running, energetic, after drinking Coca-Cola, he fainted. So it's important to know the expectations, the other side, the other party. Okay, that's basic things. Very, very basic information that every researcher, whether you are postgraduate or whether you are what we call academic, who are going to write for journal, high impact journal. Now, looking at the research process, okay, the process, the stages that are involved, these are very common. Okay, stage 1. I'm going to go specific in one part. Later on, I'm going to speak to you problem statement. Why I want to spend some time looking into the problem statement is that sometimes when I look at some PhD thesis, even when we look into review of the journal, problem statements seems to be very vague, unclear. Now, before problem statement, again, for postgraduate student, before you talk about problem statement, you need to look into what is the field that you want to do. What is the topic that you want to do? Sometimes some students have a difficulty even identifying the topic. In order to identify the topic, in order to look into the problem and all that, the first thing, that's why I used to say that literature review is not something that you are going to write when you go to your chapter 2. The literature review is something that you need to write even before you start your thesis or your paper. And in fact, the literature review is relevant at every stages of your research. Not only for chapter 2 of your thesis, not only for one particular component or one particular section of your paper. There are a lot to write, talk about literature review, to look into literature review, critical literature review. So, topic itself, before you want to do a topic, make sure the topic is unique. Very unique topic, different. It is exploring something different. If you are going to write a topic that has already been done by many people in the past, it will be very difficult to be accepted in a journal or even to contribute to the knowledge in a thesis. Okay, being in a field of human resource management, organizational behavior, industrial relation, I can tell you like in a field like organizational behavior, OB, job satisfaction. See, there is a topic called job satisfaction. See, job satisfaction, and then leadership style, employee turnover intention, and then in a field like operation, for example, operation or even a marketing, service quality. These are the topic that has been researched by many people in many countries. So if any researcher, new researcher, or a postgraduate student who wants to take that particular topic to research, you need to make sure that it is completely going to be something new, something unique. Otherwise, if your findings, your research findings is not new, it's similar to what other people have found, what is your contribution? What is your contribution to the theory? Like, for example, theory is related to job satisfaction, leadership style, service quality. Of course, you use theory. Service quality, they use theory. You have them theories like models and theories like SQL, and then job satisfaction also you have many. Leadership also you have so many. So question yourself. First stage, in a topic itself, you need to think your topic. Think about your topic before you go into other parts, other stages. So these are the common, okay, stage. I'm not going to go into detail, okay, starting with your research problem, research objective, and then looking into research questions, framework, then data collection, data analysis, interpretation, findings, and all that you go through, that you do. Now, that's why in any research or a topic, it's important at the first stage, think. More time is required to think what is the topic, what is the problem. Because I always feel in a thesis, for example, your chapter 1 is an important chapter. Of course, all chapters are important. Chapter 1 lays the foundation for the entire thesis. And for your paper, your topic and your problem that you are going to explore, essential, very, very essential. You need to think thoroughly. Like a statement of Einstein. Einstein mentioned, if he is given, let's say, 60 minutes to solve a problem, he said he would spend about 55 minutes trying to define and then 5 minutes in solving it. So the problem stage, identifying a problem that needs to be researched. What is the thing that you need to research? Takes a bit time. Of course, the field that you want to research you must also have an interest in it. One is interest. If you have no interest, then it will be difficult. You need to have an interest. At the same time, you need to also look into many other factors that you need to consider. Feasibility of the study within a time frame given for the research. If it is a journal article, it is just an article that you're planning, let's say 6 months to 1 year, because faculty requirements, some requirements in some universities in a year, you need to have one publication, whether it is in Scopus, ISI. In my previously, when I used to be with the Australian branch campus university, they used to look into, at least you need to have it in ERA listed journal as per what is practiced in Australia. So you have a time. So whether you need to look into whether it is doable within a time frame or not. Okay, many factors you need to consider in selecting the right topic, okay, for your research. Now, let me look into some of your challenges. If you have some of your challenges, what you can do, maybe 3 or 4 we can look into. Maybe we can take these challenges later part. Then we can discuss looking into possible solution. Any one of you have an option. Either you use the audio, okay, on your audio, and you can tell what are the challenges that you face, whether it is thesis or journal publication. Okay, or let's say if you do not want to use the audio, you can use the chat box. I give you about 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, not long. Okay, anyone? You have an option. Either you want to use the audio or you can write down in a chat. As I said, the best, to get the best out of this webinar presentation is that participate. Share your thoughts, bring out your issue, challenges. Even if I'm not able to answer it, there are expertise within this webinar who might be able to answer your question. Anybody? Yes, Vijay.
Good
Okay.
evening, sir. Sir, the great challenge that doctoral degree candidates, that is PhD candidates, facing right now is about the UGC norms in India. PhD candidates can publish only in CARE journals, UGC listed journals, and there are fake and cloned journals. When again and again they have to spend their time, energy, money for publishing it in the original CARE listed journal. That's India's specific problem. that generally a person wants to write about the burning problem, write an article or thesis on a burning problem that the candidate faces, problems in opposing the governments or opposing the existing practices. So that is there, and the candidate has to exhibit boldness in presenting her thoughts or presenting her suggestions to stop the existing social evils.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, madam. Okay. Thank you for sharing the challenges. These challenges, especially the publication requirement. It's not only in India. I do see in Malaysia, but Malaysia, it is not a policy. Like in India, it is like a policy for the whole country, right? It is for the whole country. Okay. But in Malaysia, this is dependent on the university. Some universities, it makes it mandatory for them to publish, okay, in the peer-reviewed in a journal to publish in a journal. But again, depending on the university, some university will make sure will want you to publish in at least a Scopus or ISI, some of the lists of journals that have been given by them, not any journals. Okay, now publication requirement, for me, I say, can be done by this postgraduate students. In fact, the thesis itself, every part of the thesis can be converted into a journal paper. Okay, even at the stage of before you go into data collection, even with your literature review itself can be a paper. But it all depends on the how it is written. Of course, I'm not going to go into it, but you can look into some of the papers that have been published. That is even that looks at only the literature part, literature review. It is not going into the stage of data collection, analysis, and all. Just the literature, the conceptual papers. Conceptual papers can also be done. Can be done. Okay, it is just some guidance maybe from the supervisor, but I think the right person directly is a supervisor, because the supervisor also publishes together with the candidate. So it is a challenge, but it can be done. It is not something that is impossible for the candidate to do. Okay,
Sir, thank you.
All right, anybody else with any challenges before I go into the next part?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. Hello, sir. I am Dr. Neeru Vashne. Sir, I have always felt the challenge to publish an article in a high impact journal, because in the science facilities there are many journals for high impact factor. But when we see in the line of the literature or humanities journal, there are very few journals who are have such a quality of high impact journals. So it is a great issue for us that how we can maintain this quality for the high impact journal, or how we can publish in our articles in high impact journal. How we can see this, that this journal is high impact factor or not? Because in many publication I have seen that they have mentioned that our impact factor is very high, but how we can recognize it?
Okay, now see, high impact journals, even my case, I have looked at some of these journals. They are mostly dominated by certain countries, certain regions. Okay, I can say from mostly like if you take US, in countries like Malaysia, let's say even I'm coming from Malaysia or even India, not that easy to enter, because they look into country or they look into institution. That is why if you want to publish in a high impact journal, one of the suggestions that I can provide to you is that widen your network of academics. Academics not only in India, but academics in other countries, especially US, in Europe, in Australia, Some of you nowadays, world today is open. You can easily establish connection. LinkedIn, from many medias are there. Academic media, have connect with the academics there, especially academics who have published in this high impact journal. Because individually, if you submit, even though your article can be good, but they won't easily take unless they want to see the authors. Who are the authors? Reputation of the authors, where the authors are coming from. So first stage, my suggestion is that you can co-author paper with academics who have published in high impact journals, maybe not from India, maybe from other countries. Especially, you can also look into the journal that you are targeting. The journal that you are targeting, look at the journal. Who are the editors? Who are the people who are in the editorial board of the journals? Establish communication with them. Establish communication, and then try to look for ways where you can work together with them to have joint publication or in a journal. Okay, that is one of my suggestion. And there are people who have done. The only thing is that you need to move. You need to start the first move to communicate, to contact. Okay, you might not get response from one. We don't give up. Go to the other. Okay, the most important thing here is that do not give up. Okay, continue to establish connection. Continue to establish connectivity with you need to widen your connection so that you will be able to, in fact, when your connectivity improve, let's say the particular researcher is doing a cross-cultural study of a particular topic. He's not only doing a studies in the country where he is. He wants to do a country with taking samples from other parts of the world. So very easily you will be able to provide your perspective from India or even from any other countries. Okay, like for Haruna, you are from Ghana. Maybe you can you can write from the perspective of Ghana, and then it can be published. So this is one of the way that you can look into it. You don't just be within your own institution, because if you are just within your own institution, you don't grow. You need to establish networks with people from many other institutions, not only in India, but worldwide. All right, Dr. Nero?
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, sir.
Uma Patel, Umaji, you have a question? You raise your hand. Okay, fine. All right. Let's move into the next one. Challenges are many. Everyone will have some of these challenges. Difficulty knowing where to start, especially for those academics who are new, okay, not knowing how to start, anxiety about writing skills, lack of confidence. Now, difficulty, where to start, how to start. Very important in any institutions, you need to have a good mentorship, research mentors, especially faculty members in those institutions who have extensive experience in publishing. They can become a mentor. In fact, some of you who are currently publishing, who have an extensive knowledge of in terms of publication, you can mentor newcomers. So where to start, when to start, collaborate. The only thing is that collaborate within the institution, like what I have said earlier, collaborate with the academician from other institution. Okay, this is not something that you say this is a challenge. I can't move on from here. Okay, all right. Now let me quickly move on into some of the area that I'm going to go through with you. Starting with chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is mostly for thesis, but can also be applicable when you go into your research paper, where the chapter becomes the sections. Okay, the sections on introduction, abstract, introduction, literature review, methodology, okay, and then the analysis of results, findings, and all that. Okay, now let me move into the first one, that is abstract. How do people know? Sometimes I find now I have examined thesis for university. One of the university, these universities in India, the requirement, there is no abstract at all. Straight away they go into chapter 1. But that's dependent on the university. But my suggestion, my take is that abstract is essential. Very, very important abstract. First stage in any research, if you're looking into any research, you need to put your abstract. Without your abstract, okay, if you don't put in your abstract, okay, let me present the screen again. Okay, abstract is very, very important for the examiner, for the evaluator to know the summary of your entire paper or a thesis. General paper, yes, you have abstract, but most theses, some of the theses, not most theses, some of the theses that I have seen, they don't have an abstract. They go straight into your introduction. Now, guidelines when it comes to abstract, I used to say that at least one sentence must be from each of the chapter of the thesis or parts of the paper. At least one sentence. And of course, when you go and do a search how to write on abstract, you can find a lot of information about writing of an abstract. If the abstract is vague, confusing, that will actually destroy the mood of the reader to continue with the journal paper. In fact, let me tell you that some of the journal article can be accepted or rejected by the editors, by the reviewers, just by going through the abstract. Some of the journal, I repeat, some of the journal papers or journal articles can be accepted or rejected by the reviewers just based on their reading of the abstract. That is why your abstract plays a very important role. And the abstract must have at least one sentence from each of the sections or the chapters. So that's how, as I say, I don't want to go into the abstract part very detailed. Now coming into another important part of a thesis or even a paper. What is the problem that you are going to explore? Problem statement. There are many guidelines in writing a problem statement. And in a thesis, sometimes I find some candidate write a problem statement like a research gap. No, research gap is different. Research gap is something that you write after your literature review. Research gap and a problem statement, you can differentiate, like for example, snorkeling and scuba diving. Snorkeling is only, if you are familiar, snorkeling, you only do surface level exploration. Surface level exploration of the problem. You are not going in that. But the research gap is like scuba diving. You are going into deep level exploration. Okay, and a research gap is only after your literature review. So problem statement is the first stage, and a problem statement comes in your chapter 1 to look into your problem. What is the problem? Why the problem? It might be a problem to you. You might see it as a problem, but it might not be a problem for somebody else. So you have to look, when you want to define a problem, you have to look to the problem from various stakeholders. You have to look at it. Let's say if you are looking in it from the management perspective, human resource management perspective, or whatever, you have to look at it from the employee perspective, from the manager's perspective, from the director's perspective, board of directors perspective, from the customer's perspective, from suppliers perspective, from the distributor's perspective, from the whole stakeholders, the entire stakeholder, look at it. So if the problem is just one level, so it might not be a problem to others. So a problem, first you look into at the first stage, but of course later on you have to go and explore it in depth. just like the iceberg metaphor. So if you are familiar with the iceberg metaphor, you know problem statement. What is a problem statement and how to write a problem statement? Because some thesis, when I look at the problem statement, there is no really problem. They're just writing something, but it's not clear, it's not precise, it's not accurate. That leads to your research objective and your research questions. Because a problem statement need to be aligned after your introduction, okay, and then you write your background. Depends on your university format, whether introduction and then straight to problem statement. Then your research objective, research questions. Those there must be a flow of thoughts. And some of the problem statement, even thesis, recent thesis I have examined, the references that are cited in a problem statement are very old references. The most recent references that the candidate in that particular thesis cited on problem statement was 2017. 2017, now is 2022. Thesis was completed in early 2022. 2017 to 2022, 5 years. So 5 years, many things might have happened. So is the problem still relevant after 5 years? Okay, is the problem still relevant after 5 years? The problem might, the lot of changes have happened in the world over the last 2 to 3 years. Okay, this also leads to other areas like introduction, background. Okay, COVID-19 have impacted the entire world. Not only India, Malaysia, the whole world was affected by COVID-19. But I see some of their introduction, background, any industry they're writing, nothing mentioned about the impact of COVID-19. Last 2 years, major impact. So you need to look into happenings in the world, how the current happenings, if you don't put in the current happenings and the references, not recent, especially the introduction, background, and a problem statement, it is good to have at least 40% of references based on last 3 years journal articles, preferably. Otherwise, the reader look into, these are still old. Now we are talking about 2022. Why they are referring, giving the statistics, giving the problems, issues that has been written 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So it's important, look at and some of the most recent articles related to the topic that you are exploring, that you are writing, and cite the topic, cite the research. So the problem statement. Now, how to write a problem statement? I'm just guiding you, general, but as I said to you, it's very important before you move into the next stage of going into your research objective and research questions. Okay. Now let me move on to the, okay. It's important for you to update with the new changes, whichever field that you are in. Now, then, let's say if you are writing a thesis, not only thesis, even for a journal article, you will have objective and your questions. Okay, your research objective, your research questions. Some institutions, they don't use, they go into like straight to hypothesis, formulation of hypothesis. The format of the institutions might be different, might differ. Some will have hypothesis formulation, hypothesis in their chapter 1. Some will go into chapter 2, and I have also seen some gone into even chapter 3. But that depends on the formats, required format of the institutions. Okay. Now, research objective. Let's say you have 3 or 4. My take is always align your research question to the objective. You might have, there might be difference in opinion, but usually my advice is that aligning the research objective to your research question to the research objective. Because I do find sometimes some candidates, some papers or thesis, your objective and question do not tally. There is no alignment between the research objective and research questions. Research objective looks different Then the question is that what you are going to find out. Later on, when you are writing your chapter 3, that is your methodology, is that how are you going to answer the research question? Methodology that you are going to employ to answer your research questions. But in this stage, make sure there's a proper link between these two, especially your RO and also your RQ. Sometimes it runs. It might not be it is not aligned. Okay, let me quickly run through literature review. Okay. One of the things that I emphasize again and again in many theses, even when I review articles, make sure at least 40%, okay, 30 to 40%, I would say 40%, last 5 years, 3 to 5 years. Okay, last 3 to 5 years, at least, okay, if you are unable to get 3 years, 5 years. Don't cite literature review that are considered to be ancient. Ancient means I do find some of the literature cited that are cited, a lot of literature that was written in 20th century. No, it's not wrong. You can cite literature, older literature. But if you can find more recent related to the field, cite the recent literature. Unless the study that you are going to do, that you are writing, is that some of these studies is based on some of the landmark studies, yes, you can cite. Like, for example, if you take in a field like international culture, cultural dimension, Hofstede, Geoff Hofstede, 1983, you can cite. That is considered to be a landmark study. Or if you are citing, let's say, Lewin, Kurt Lewin, Change Management Theory, 1930s, you can even say, you can cite, yes. But there are many news findings, okay, based on that has been done in most recent years. It will be better you use something that is more recent, so that your paper or your thesis is seen to be current and relevant. Okay, let me move into methodology. Okay, I just want to know from the organizer, how long do I have time? I think maybe about an hour, another 15 minutes. Anyone can respond?
So you can take 15 minutes, sir.
Okay, I will try to complete within 15 minutes. Okay, within 15 minutes. The next part is a methodological area. No, the methodology here refers to how are you going to answer your research questions. Okay, it's not just right now. Sometimes I find in the methodology they just write what is quantitative, what is qualitative, what is mixed method. There are theses can be written purely qualitative. Yes, there are quantitative. My suggestion is that you can use mixed method. Nowadays, mixed method is very popular. Don't just rely on one quantitative or just qualitative. Have a mixed method. I can go into more on this thing on mixed method here, but note that the importance of that particular chapter on research methodology, especially the approach, you need to defend why you are using this way. The description of the data to be collected. How are you going to collect the sampling methods? Before sampling the population, you should have clearly defined your population when you are writing the scope of your study. And the scope of your study is also something that you need to look into. You can't explore whole thing. Like if you are doing let's say if you are doing something on employee commitment, job commitment of a particular industry, maybe you can look into a specific district. In Tamil Nadu, you have district, many districts. You can take a specific district. If you want to do the entire Tamil Nadu, maybe might not be unless you have a longer time, you are doing a longitudinal studies, longer study, you want to take the entire Tamil Nadu or you want the entire India. So you need to very clear with the scope of your studies, which can be done within a specific period of time. Okay, and then the sampling, as I said to you, from your simulation sample, how your sampling method, the justifications, the limitations of the methodology that you are that you have selected. So as I said, quantitative, qualitative, try you can use both. Okay, instead of just focusing on one, have a bit on qualitative. When I say qualitative means mostly yes, interview, focus group interviews. Get an interview itself. Nowadays there are many. If you're looking into in terms of the technology, the softwares that are used to analyze data, whether quantitative and qualitative, there are many. You make sure you can take advantage of that. Okay, then of course analysis of the results. Okay, as I said to you, the many softwares are there that can assist you. Sometimes the analysis of the results, some students, they are not so good in certain statistics, SPSS, whether they have this what they call SEM or whatever. They can get guidance. People who have an expertise. The most important thing is that they know how to analyze. After they get it, they must know how to interpretation. And when you write the interpretation of the data, you need to always link with the literature. Okay, linking with the literature is very important. Let's say based on your findings, why this finding, if the finding is in such a way, why is it so? Why it is different? Okay, how it is different from other finding? Is it consistent? Not consistent? If it is consistent, why? If it is not consistent, why? Justification and all that. It needs to be from the literature. Findings. Okay, the last part, of course, looking into the findings, recommendation, conclusion. As I said in the beginning, make sure whether it is thesis or whether it is a journal article, implication of the paper, implication of this article, implication of this thesis is very, very crucial. And apart from the abstract, the last part, the conclusion must also must have some impact. Because some researcher, some examiner for a thesis or even the evaluator, the reviewer, they might not be looking into checking the statistics and data and all that in detail. Even I'm an examiner. I will not go into, especially that chapter 4, the analysis. What I look into in chapter 4 is the way it is interpreted, analysis. My focus mainly the chapter 1, 2, the literature, methodology, how you do. Then at the end of the day, the fifth, your findings. Okay, no, because at the end of the day, your conclusion, and your findings and your conclusion. Okay, what is your contribution? What the thesis is contributing to the field, to the theory, to practice, and also for future research. This needs to be very strong. That will create a good impact. And of course, the recommendation, you can give a lot of recommendation to to the industry, society, okay, recommendations to government, to policy makers. These are very, very crucial. The recommendation, because at the end of the day, it is showing the real impact, what they should do. Whether they are reading it or not, we won't know. But it is our duty as a researcher to provide the recommendation. Not all the policy makers reading all the thesis, but it's the duty of the researcher to provide. These are the findings. These are the recommendations. And the other part of the thesis or even an article is just the format, references. Okay, references, you need to make sure the requirement of the university and the requirement of the journal article. Okay, the journal requirement, if they require references based on APA, just follow APA, American Psychological Association. If they require the references to follow like Harvard referencing, follow the Harvard referencing. Whichever referencing, Chicago or whatever referencing or citation style, just follow as per the guide. So for postgraduate student, make sure you are clear with the guide, institutional guide, university guide on writing guidelines. Just follow as per the guidelines. Format and references. As I said, the references, make sure at least 30 to 40% recent, last 5 years. And the other part, usually the examiner or even the reviewer will look into is the overall impression. This is not the report, description of the article or the thesis, all chapters, whether the relationship between one chapter to another chapter. That is why before you begin a chapter, you start with an overview of the chapter, like for a thesis. How the chapter, this chapter relates to the earlier chapter. Okay, and then it's important so that there is a flow, a correct flow. So important to look into all those to avoid thesis not getting good review from the examiner, or paper being rejected by a journal. So we need to avoid some of the problems, the common problems that why a paper is rejected in a journal, or usually once a candidate, PhD candidate completes a thesis, possibility of the candidate failing is rare, very, very rare. But the worst can happen that there are some cases where they might have to go through major correction. We don't want people to go into major correction for a thesis or major correction for a paper or being rejected for a paper. So know the journal, their expectations, what to do, what to write, and then write accordingly so that the likelihood of it being accepted will be higher. Okay, the last part. Okay, the last part. If you have time, okay, strategies and action plan to overcome the challenges in students report writing, not report, sorry, students. I should use article writing. Okay, not students report writing. Many of you are faculty members here. Okay, now 1 hour. I think I've spent with you 1 hour. Around 1 hour, close to 1 hour. My role is just to give you some guide because I do not know your training needs or learning needs. This presentation is a general presentation. If there are some areas that are useful, you can take it useful. If there are areas that are not useful, not relevant to you, fine, it might be relevant to other people because we do have postgraduate students, especially for faculty members. And if you have any questions, I can take in questions if we still have time anymore. Maybe another 5 minutes. I think within 5 minutes, I can take in any questions. Anybody with any questions, feel free to interact with me for a Q&A session.
Sir,
Either you can.
thank you, sir.
Yes.
It's a very good
Yep.
presentation. So thank you, sir.
Thank
It's
you.
a
Thank
very
you
good
for listening.
presentation. You have cleared our doubts, particularly generally candidates feel difficult to write abstract. You know, when write a journal article, they find it difficult to write an abstract. You have clarified now the doubts that abstract should have everything mentioned in a paper, and at least each portion of the paper should be in the abstract. Sometimes the paper gets rejected seeing the abstract itself. That's, you are very, very right on this point. And then we have, I mean, you have clarified all our doubts. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Because I know there are reviewers who just read the abstract first. before they go through the other thing, abstract. If the abstract is not interesting, not convincing enough, they will not go into the introduction. So that is why the first impression is the abstract of the paper. Okay. What I have presented is like here and there. It is not very focused. It is general. Okay. Because I don't really present in this field. My field is human resource. I do training and teaching in human resource. I do publish, yes, in my field, but I don't teach methodology courses in my university, research methodology. But as a researcher, as a publisher, as an examiner, everyone need to know research. So that is the reason why I'm giving you from the macro perspective, overview perspective. Maybe some area we can go into very specific, but again, depending on the participants' learning needs. All right. Any one more questions before I pass it to the organizer?
Yes, I have a question to ask, Ibrahim.
Yes.
Yes, you in your presentation, thank you for an excellent presentation. In your presentation, you made mention of the difference between research gap and problem statement, where you said problem statement is a surface level scooping of the information, and then research gap is deep level scooping. Now, I want to find out from you, if you have intention of writing a journal as a researcher in this 21st century, what should be your main focus? Should you have any limitations? Should you have anything that you have to consider before choosing between the two? Or you go with both?
Okay. Problem statement, research gap. One is snorkeling. The other one is scuba diving. Now, for the research, for the journal, first, as I said, you need to know the scope of your journal. Every journal that you want to publish, when you go into the website, they will clearly mention what are the scope of the journal, what type of papers they want. They won't take any type of paper, okay? And what type of paper and what they expect. The expectations of the journal will be very clear in terms of the writing itself, the author's guideline and the journal's expectations. But for current stage, if you are looking into, what I see is that in my field, even in the field of management, things that has to do with sustainability, environmental, social responsibilities, governance, industry 4.0, industry 5.0, some of these topics that are relevant, that are linked, like also in the field of finance, fintech, in the area of HR metrics, analytics. These are, and then the research today, you have to know, it is also shifting from one field to different field. I would rather say now, some of the research that takes multidisciplinary perspective have a better value it is going to create. What do I mean by multidisciplinary? Means you can combine a discipline. Because even in one discipline, let's say management itself is a combination of many disciplines like psychology, social psychology, anthropology, political science, economics, finance, interdisciplinary field. So if you have a researcher or course researcher coming from a different field, you can talk to him or her, discuss how both can collaborate to come out with an interdisciplinary paper. Interdisciplinary paper creates a value rather than within your own discipline. Okay, so for the journal, look at the expectations of the journal. What the journal expects. Definitely, they would have given in the journal website itself the scope of the journal and the types of articles that they expect from the contributors. All right. Fazanaji? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for your excellent presentation. I have one question regarding the publications. Actually, you have mentioned that if any of the postgraduate student or any of the faculty member who wants to publish paper, they need to build up their network. So, I would like to ask you, so is there any way I can publish my paper without building my networking or any
Okay.
relationship with my academia?
Okay, you can, but what I say is that the possibility is higher when you have a great network. See, to establish a network, you don't have to travel nowadays. Even there are many groups, even in a Facebook, for example, if you say postgraduate students, doctoral students group, even there are many medias where there are many of them are there. The only thing is that you join and then you become active, ask questions. There are many people there. So doctoral group, for example, doctoral studies group. Okay, so you establish new networks. You see, today in this world today, if you remain without connection, it will be difficult. It's not the I'm not saying it's impossible. It is possible, but it will be a bit difficult. With the connectivity with the researchers around you, they take the role like a support. They will be like a social support. So within your institution, you can have a community with of doctoral students. Like in some universities here, they go through a colloquium. No, they present their research progress and all that, and then they get feedback from the other candidates or even co-researchers, other examiners, supervisors. So some form of networks or community of researchers should be there that can assist a researcher to grow in their field. So yes, Fasanaji, yes, can without network, but it will be good if you establish a network to grow within your field.
Thank you, sir. But,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. So if I want to build a network in Malaysia, so what should I do to build
Okay.
a network?
You can follow. You can
Background.
follow.
Yeah.
In Malaysia, there are many doctoral students group. In Facebook, if you go through doctoral students group, Malaysia, actually it's not only Malaysia, even Malaysia, they have established internationally. There are many. Just need to do search. You can find in LinkedIn, Facebook, many social media. There are groups that supports each other. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Niru have one. I think I will take the last one before I pass it to the organizer.
So thank you. So my question is that nowadays I have read so many articles in a journal that they have mentioned in their articles somewhere literature review and somewhere research methodology. So it is now an essential part for writing journal.
Literature review. Okay, I'm not able to get it. Okay.
And research methodology.
Okay. Research methodology, yes. Literature review. You
and
mean
both are the essential parts for the writing journals or not?
They are. But again, as I say, journal articles, you have some limitation compared to those who are doing a thesis. A thesis is going to be a very extensive, comprehensive. Journal articles, another thing is that you have to go through, it is essential. You see, whatever I have mentioned, the introduction, background, okay, and then the methodology, the literature review, the methodology. Before that, okay, you have the research, all this are also there in journal article. But the journal article, you need to condense, you need to summarize within the what we call the word limit. In some journals, they give a word limit, maybe it cannot exceed more than 10,000 words. So you have to write within the limit. So that is one limitation that you have for journal, if you are looking into from the perspective of publishing in a journal.
Okay, so you mean to say that it depends on the limitation of words. It is not an essential part that we have must right to literature review and research methodology, right?
All these are important, even in a journal article. Every research you need to go through, but you don't have to elaborate in that in a journal article unless some journals they require detail on certain areas. Then you need to go through. Some journals their focus is at more on how rigorous is the methodology, the research that has been done. They are not looking into some other components of the research. Okay.
Okay.
All right. There is a my email. Okay, let me write down my email. Okay. You can get it from the organizer. Now I'm going to share the slide, but I'm unable to share here. There is no attachment here. What I will do is that the slide I will share to the organizer. Then they can send to you to get. If you want to, my email also I can't write here. That is messages are being recorded with the call. Okay. If you want to search for my email, you just write my full name, Balakrishnan Muniappan. Balakrishnan Muniappan. If you search in a Google, you can find my email, institutional email, and also my Gmail. If you those who requested for it.
Sir, can you say
Because
spelling
I'm
of
not
your
able
name?
to share here. I'm not
Sir,
able
I
to
need
share.
spelling of your
Sorry.
name.
Full name is spelling BALAKRISHNAN. Okay. MUNIAPAN. You just type in a Google, you should be able to find the emails and all the details are there. Okay. All right. Thank you to everyone.